Your company had a meeting about you last quarter. You were not invited. The meeting was about whether a $20 a month software subscription could do your job. And somebody in that room said yes. You do not know who said it. You do not know what was presented. You do not know what spreadsheet was shown, comparing your annual salary plus benefits plus overhead to a tool that costs less per year than what your company spends on your parking space. But the meeting happened. And a version of that meeting happened at 41% of all companies on Earth according to the World Economic Forum, which surveyed global employers and found that 41% plan to reduce their workforce in the next 5 years, specifically because of artificial intelligence. Your company had that meeting, and you were not in the room when it happened. 5 days ago, Tech Times reported that 142,000 tech workers have already been fired this year. The same companies that fired them are spending $700 billion building the AI systems that will ensure they are never rehired. CBS reported 2 weeks ago that 50,000 job cuts this year are explicitly linked to AI, 1 in 6 of all layoffs in America. Stanford confirmed that software developer employment for workers under 26 has fallen nearly 20% since 2024. A Wharton professor went on the record and said companies are announcing AI layoffs based on a hope that the technology will work, had not proven it. Just hoping. And Fortune reported that 66% of CEOs have frozen hiring through the rest of 2026. 2 out of 3. Your resume is not being rejected. It is not being read. Because the position you are applying for has been erased from the hiring plan by a CEO who decided that AI goes first and you go second. Amazon cut 30,000. Meta cut 8,000. Dell cut 11,000. Block cut 4,000. Which was 40% of its entire workforce. Intuit, the company that makes TurboTax, cut 3,000 on the same day as Meta. Wall Street banks are planning to eliminate 200,000 jobs in the next 3 to 5 years. Graphic artist job postings dropped 33%. Photographer postings dropped 28%. Writer postings dropped 28%. And Klarna replaced 700 customer service workers with AI, bragged about it at every conference in Silicon Valley, and then quietly started rehiring humans, because the AI produced lower quality work. The CEO admitted it on camera. And nobody told you that part. This video is about the replacement that is already happening. Not in theory, in your industry, in your company, in the meeting that happened last quarter that you were not invited to. I am going to show you who has already been replaced, which jobs are next, why the biggest lie in corporate America is that AI can actually do what they are firing people for, and what to do right now to make yourself the person in the room that no machine can replicate. Because they can replace your tasks. They cannot replace you, but only if you understand the difference before the next meeting happens. 142,000 tech workers have already been fired this year, while the companies that fired them are spending $700 billion building the AI systems that will replace the next wave. 5 days ago, Tech Times published a headline that should have stopped every white-collar worker in America from sleeping. Tech layoffs reached 142,000 in 2026, while profitable companies cut jobs to fund a $700 billion AI infrastructure build-out. Read that again. 142,000 people fired. Not from struggling companies, not from startups that ran out of money, from the most profitable corporations in the history of capitalism. And the money that was paying their salaries is being redirected into the machines that will ensure they are never rehired. Amazon announced in January it would cut 16,000 corporate employees, with the company suggesting AI will do their work instead. That came on top of 14,000 corporate workers already axed in October. Dell eliminated 11,000 jobs in the first 3 months of the year, the biggest single company bloodbath of the quarter. Meta began notifying 8,000 employees on May 20th that their positions were eliminated, roughly 10% of its workforce. That same day, Intuit, the maker of TurboTax and QuickBooks, announced 3,000 additional cuts representing 17% of its global headcount. Block, which is Jack Dorsey's payments company, announced plans to cut 4,000 employees, 40% of its global workforce, and explicitly tied the losses to AI advancements. 40%. Nearly half the company erased and replaced with software. And Challenger, Gray and Christmas, the outplacement firm that has tracked layoffs for decades, reported that AI was the leading reason cited for job cuts in 2026, with 21,490 planned layoffs in April alone, attributed to artificial intelligence and automation. In March, AI accounted for 25% of all tech layoffs, up from 10% just 1 month earlier. The acceleration is not linear, it is exponential. And CBS News reported 2 weeks ago that companies have announced nearly 50,000 job cuts this year linked to AI, accounting for roughly 17% of all 300,000 total job cuts announced so far in 2026. 1 in 6 layoffs in America this year has AI's name on it, and the defining feature of this moment is not the layoffs themselves. It is the simultaneity of the layoffs with record financial performance and record capital investment. 4 hyperscalers, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, and Meta, have committed to a combined $700 billion in capital expenditure for 2026, nearly double what they spent in 2025, according to their Q1 earnings disclosures. $700 billion. Not on hiring, on hardware, on data centers, on GPU clusters, on the infrastructure that trains and runs the AI models that are absorbing the work of the people they just fired. And the day after Meta cut 8,000 workers, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed what his office called a first-of-its-kind executive order directing state agencies to study the displacement and develop policy recommendations for workers losing jobs to artificial intelligence. The governor of the state where most of these companies are headquartered saw the layoff numbers and signed an emergency executive order the next day. That is not a coincidence. That is a 5-alarm fire dressed up as a policy announcement. And the workers who were fired are not being absorbed by other tech companies because other tech companies are doing the same thing. The entire sector is cutting simultaneously, and the jobs that are being created are AI-adjacent roles that require a completely different skill set than the ones that were eliminated. The people who get laid off do not necessarily get the next set of jobs because the roles are different, said Ken Matos, an organizational psychologist at HiBob. You were not replaced by a robot. You were replaced by a spreadsheet that calculated your salary against the cost of a GPU cluster, and the GPU cluster won. And 142,000 people have already received that calculation this year. And it is only June. Stanford confirmed that software developer employment for workers under 26 fell nearly 20% since 2024, and the entry-level job that was supposed to be recession-proof is being eliminated before your kid even graduates. For 20 years, the advice was simple. Learn to code. If you did not know what to do with your life, learn to code. If you were worried about the future, learn to code. If you wanted a recession-proof career that paid 6 figures and could not be outsourced or automated, learn to code. Parents told their children. Guidance counselors told their students. Politicians built entire workforce development programs around it. Boot camps charged $15,000 to $25,000 for 12-week programs that promised a $90,000 starting salary. And the promise was real. For 2 decades, software development was the single most reliable path to a middle-class or upper-middle-class life for a young person without generational wealth. And Stanford's Institute for Human-Centered AI just killed it. Their data shows that software developer employment for workers under 26 has fallen nearly 20% since 2024. Not overall software employment. Software employment for the young, the entry-level workers, the fresh graduates, the boot camp completers. The people who were told that this specific skill, was the one that could not be taken from them, and it was taken in less than 2 years. And here is why entry-level is being hit first. CBS News reported 2 weeks ago that younger workers face particular challenges because entry-level roles are easier to automate than senior positions. A Columbia Business School professor named Kume told them the major impact of AI will come from reduced hiring of juniors, noting that seniors are a lot more difficult to replace, and that is the cruelest irony of the AI revolution. The people who are most replaceable are the ones who have the least savings, the most student debt, the fewest professional connections, and the shortest runway to financial disaster. A senior engineer with 15 years of experience, a $300,000 salary, and $800,000 in savings can survive a layoff. They have a network, they have a reputation, they have options. A 24-year-old with $85,000 in student loans, 2 years of experience, and $4,000 in savings does not have options. They have rent due on the first, and a career that the market just told them is being phased out at the entry level. And Programs.com documented the scale. At least 8 companies announced AI-related layoffs affecting 10,000 or more employees each, including Accenture, Amazon, Citigroup, Dell, Intel, Microsoft, TCS, and UPS. Nearly 80,000 employees have been impacted by AI-driven layoffs in 2026 alone. Over 100,000 were impacted in 2025, and 45 CEOs have publicly announced layoffs citing efficiencies made by AI. 45. Not fringe startup founders. CEOs of companies whose names you know, whose products you use, whose stock your retirement account holds. And the World Economic Forum surveyed employers globally and found that 41% of companies expect to reduce their workforces in the next 5 years because of AI. 41% of all companies on Earth plan to have fewer humans working for them by 2030. And the IMF reported that 40% of jobs worldwide are exposed to AI, meaning AI could perform a major part of those roles. In advanced economies like the United States, 60% of jobs could be impacted. And around 19% of U.S. workers could see more than half of their daily tasks affected. 1 in 5 workers losing more than half their job to a machine. And 80% of the U.S. workforce could have at least 10% of their tasks influenced by large language models. That is not a sector-specific disruption. That is the entire economy being repriced around the capability of software to do what humans used to be paid to do. And the 24-year-old with the computer science degree and the student loans and the dream of a 6-figure career is standing at the front of the line. Not because they are less talented, because they are less expensive to replace. And AI does not care about your degree, your bootcamp certificate, your GitHub portfolio, or the 20 years of advice that told you this was the one safe bet. The safe bet just became the first casualty. Klarna replaced 700 customer service workers with AI, bragged about it on every stage in Silicon Valley, and then quietly started rehiring humans because the AI could not actually do the job. This is the story that Silicon Valley does not want you to know because it destroys the narrative they are selling to every CEO on the planet. In 2024, Klarna, the Swedish buy now pay later company that partners with H&M, Sephora, Macy's, Nike, IKEA, Airbnb, and Expedia, announced that it had replaced 700 customer service workers with an AI chatbot built in partnership with OpenAI. The CEO, Sebastian Siemiatkowski, went on a world tour with the story. He told every podcast, every conference, every journalist who would listen that AI was doing the work of 700 agents. He said the company had gone from a peak workforce to around 4,000 employees, and that he planned to eventually reach 2,000, a 50% reduction in the entire company. And Wall Street loved it. Investors loved it. The stock responded. Other CEOs took notes. And then something happened that Siemiatkowski did not announce on stage. The AI failed. Digital Applied published a detailed case study in March 2026, documenting that Klarna's full AI replacement of customer service failed on quality, not cost. The AI agents handled the volume but not the complexity. Customer satisfaction scores dropped as edge cases, emotionally charged interactions, and multi-step problem resolution overwhelmed an AI trained to handle routine queries. The cost savings projected at announcement did not materialize because handling quality issues consumed more than was saved, and rehiring costs exceeded the original savings estimate because recruiting, onboarding, and training new customer service staff is expensive, and companies rarely model that cost in their AI replacement business cases. And here is the part that matters most. Siemiatkowski himself admitted it. He told Bloomberg that the AI job cuts had led to lower quality customer service. His exact words were cost unfortunately seems to have been a too predominant evaluation factor, and what you end up having is lower quality. The CEO who stood on every stage in Silicon Valley bragging about replacing 700 humans with a machine went on Bloomberg and admitted that the machine produced lower quality work, and Klarna is now hiring humans again. They announced a new pilot hiring remote customer service workers, targeting students, rural populations, and existing Klarna users. And the CEO who said he was going to 2,000 employees is now describing human support as a future VIP experience. And this story matters because Klarna was the case study. It was the proof of concept that every other company pointed to when they decided to fire their own customer service teams. When Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff announced that his company had gone from 9,000 to 5,000 customer support agents thanks to agentic AI, Klarna was the precedent. When General Motors laid off over 600 IT workers in May 2026, citing lack of AI skills, Klarna was the model. When Block fired 4,000 employees and explicitly tied it to AI, Klarna was the validation. And the validation just admitted on camera that the strategy produced lower quality work, and they are rehiring humans. But here is the cruelest part. The 700 people who were fired are not the ones being rehired. Klarna is hiring new workers at different rates, in different locations, through a gig-style Uber-type setup. The people who lost their jobs, who had institutional knowledge, who knew how to navigate edge cases, who understood what customers in specific situations needed, those people are gone. Their knowledge is gone. Their careers were disrupted. Their lives were rearranged. And the company that fired them is now admitting it needs humans after all, just not the humans it already had. That is not disruption. That is destruction. dressed up as innovation. And 45 other CEOs are following the same playbook right now without waiting to see whether it actually works. Wall Street banks have announced plans to eliminate 200,000 jobs in the next 3 to 5 years, and the entry-level analyst position that used to pay $120,000 out of college is the first one being fed to the machine. Bloomberg Intelligence published a projection that should have caused a riot at every business school in America. The 5 largest Wall Street banks, J.P. Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, are integrating AI at a pace that is projected to eliminate up to 200,000 jobs globally within 3 to 5 years. 200,000? And these are not warehouse jobs. These are not retail jobs. These are the jobs that the children of the upper middle class were groomed for: the finance jobs, the analyst positions, the back office roles, the compliance departments, the risk assessment teams, the due diligence processes, the client onboarding workflows, the very jobs that justified the $80,000 per year tuition at the business schools that these banks recruit from. And JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon went on Bloomberg TV and said something that should be quoted back to every college freshman majoring in finance. He predicted that AI will automate 60 to 70% of current tasks at the bank and potentially shrink the work week to 3.5 days. 3.5 days sounds great until you realize what he is actually saying. If AI automates 60 to 70% of the work, you do not need the same number of people working 3.5 days. You need 30 to 40% of the people working 5. The math is not about shorter weeks. It is about fewer humans, and Goldman Sachs confirmed the strategy in its own filings. The bank unveiled a new operating model called OneGS 3.0 that is explicitly built around AI. The goals include optimizing headcount, enabling process simplification and automation, and accelerating AI adoption across the employee base. Optimize headcount is corporate language for fire people, and the initial work streams listed in the filing include client onboarding, enterprise risk management, vendor management, lending, regulatory reporting, and sales enablement. Those are not peripheral functions. Those are the core of what an investment bank does. And when AI handles onboarding, risk, lending, reporting, and sales support, what is left for the 45,000 employees at Goldman Sachs to do? And AI industry investments are projected to exceed $500 billion in 2026 across Wall Street alone, according to Goldman's own analysts. $500 billion flowing into the infrastructure that replaces the people sitting at the desks that line the trading floors of Lower Manhattan. And Bloomberg Intelligence estimated that by 2027, banks could see pre-tax profits 12 to 17% higher, adding up to $180 billion to their collective bottom lines. $180 billion in additional profit, generated not by hiring more people, but by firing them and replacing them with software. And the people who are fired first are the ones at the bottom. The junior analysts, the associates, the people who were hired 2 years ago at $120,000 to $150,000 a year and were told they were on the path to managing director. Because junior work is structured work. It is research. It is modeling. It is summarizing documents. It is building pitch decks. It is exactly the kind of repetitive, pattern-based cognitive labor that large language models and AI agents are specifically designed to perform. A senior managing director with 25 years of client relationships is irreplaceable. A first-year analyst building a comparable analysis in Excel is not. And the pipeline that used to flow from Wharton to Goldman to managing director to retirement is being rerouted through a GPU cluster that does not need a signing bonus, does not need health insurance, does not need a Bloomberg terminal subscription, does not take sick days, and does not ask for a promotion. 200,000 jobs, 3 to 5 years, and the $80,000 a year degree that was supposed to guarantee a seat at the table just became a receipt for a chair that no longer exists. 66% of CEOs have frozen hiring for the rest of 2026, and the jobs that disappeared are not coming back because the companies that eliminated them have made it policy to never fill them again. Fortune published an analysis in March 2026 that described the most dangerous form of AI job loss, the one that never shows up in a layoff statistic because technically nobody was fired. 66% of CEOs plan to freeze or cut hiring through the rest of 2026. That number comes from a survey of more than 350 public company CEOs and investors managing $19 trillion in assets. 2 out of 3 leaders of the largest companies on Earth have decided that they are not hiring for the foreseeable future. And the reason is not a recession. The reason is not declining revenue. The reason is that they believe AI will do the work of the people they are choosing not to hire. And the Fortune analysis described it as operational paralysis. Corporate America eliminated more than 1.17 million jobs in 2025 under the logic that excess labor had to be cut to fund the future of AI. 1.17 million. That is not a rounding error. That is a population larger than the city of San Jose, eliminated from payrolls in a single year. And by February 2026, that retrenchment hardened into a freeze, and the freeze is where the real damage lives. Because a layoff is visible, it makes headlines, it triggers unemployment claims, it gets tracked by Challenger and the BLS and the media. But a hiring freeze is invisible. When a company decides that it will not replace the 200 people who quit or retired this quarter because AI can absorb their tasks, no headline is written. No unemployment claim is filed, no journalist calls. Those 200 jobs simply vanish from the economy as if they never existed, and across thousands of companies simultaneously, that invisible evaporation adds up to millions of jobs that will never be posted again. And the CEOs are being explicit about it. Shopify CEO Tobi Lütke sent a memo to employees that said no team will get new hires unless they can prove the job cannot be done by AI agents. That is not a suggestion, that is a policy. Every hiring request at Shopify must now pass an AI-first test. If an AI agent can do the job does not exist for a human. And Duolingo announced that they will only hire for roles that cannot be automated and will gradually stop using contractors to do work that AI can handle. They built more language courses in 1 year with AI than in the previous 12 years combined. 148 new courses, and the contractors who used to do that work, the translators, the writers, the content creators, were replaced not in a dramatic layoff announcement, but in a quiet policy change that simply stopped renewing their contracts. And that pattern, not replacing, not renewing, not posting, is now the dominant strategy across corporate America. The SHRM analysis from 2 weeks ago confirmed it. Many organizations are reducing headcount indirectly through hiring freezes, attrition, and delayed recruiting rather than mass replacement. And the Wharton management professor Peter Capelli put it in terms that should terrify every job seeker in America. He said companies are announcing layoffs by saying we expect that AI will cover this work. Had not done it. They are just hoping. They are firing people based on the hope that AI will work. Not the proof, the hope. And if the AI does not work, they will not rehire. They will just ask the remaining employees to do more with less, which is what every company in America has been doing for 30 years under the euphemism of productivity improvement. And the 66% freeze means that the graduating class of 2026, the people who are entering the job market right now with $30,000 to $100,000 in student debt and a degree that took 4 years to earn, are walking into an economy where 2/3 of the companies they would apply to have already decided not to hire them. Not because they are unqualified, because a CEO read a McKinsey report and signed a memo that says AI goes first, and your resume goes in the folder that nobody opens. An analysis of 180 million job postings found that graphic artist roles dropped 33%, photographer roles dropped 28%, and writer roles dropped 28% in a single year. And the chief technology officer of OpenAI said, maybe those jobs should not have existed in the first place. They told you that AI could never replace creativity. That was the last safe space. The factory worker could be replaced by a robot. The data entry clerk could be replaced by software. The truck driver could eventually be replaced by self-driving vehicles. But the artist, the writer, the photographer, the graphic designer who sees color and composition in a way that a machine never could, that was supposed to be sacred. That was the uniquely human domain that no algorithm could touch, because creativity requires a soul and machines do not have souls. And then Midjourney launched, and Stable Diffusion launched, and DALL-E launched, and ChatGPT launched, and Jasper and Writesonic and Copy.xi Ludflursen saw. And 100 other tools that do in 30 seconds what a trained creative professional spent years learning to do in 30 hours. And a researcher named Claude Elwood analyzed 180 million job postings and published the results in March 2026, and the data was devastating. Among the top 10 declining job categories in the entire global economy, 3 were creative positions. Computer graphic artists dropped 33% in 2025 alone, following a 12% drop in 2024. 2 straight years of decline. Photographers dropped 28%. Writers, including copywriters, copy editors, and technical writers, dropped 28%. Journalists and reporters dropped 22%. Public relations specialists dropped 21%. And the decline was not a 1-year blip. It was a 2-year accelerating trend with no sign of reversal. And then the Otis College of Art and Design published a report on April 7, 2026, in partnership with Westwood Economics, that The Hollywood Reporter reviewed before its release. Between 2022 and 2025, California's creative economy lost 14% of its jobs. That is 114,000 creative roles eliminated in 3 years. Film, television, and sound saw a nearly 30% decline. Traditional media saw a nearly 34% decline. 1/3 of all traditional media jobs in California disappeared in 3 years. And the industry that was supposed to be immune to automation, the one that required human emotion, human experience, human perspective, is being gutted at a pace that makes the manufacturing decline look gradual by comparison. And OpenAI's Chief Technology Officer Mira Murati was asked about creative job displacement at Dartmouth and said something that should be played on a loop at every art school graduation in the country. She said some creative jobs maybe will go away, but maybe they should not have been there in the first place. The CTO of the company that built the tool replacing your career said your career should not have existed. That is not a policy statement. That is contempt dressed in a turtleneck. And a Demand-Tage compilation of AI employment statistics projected that digital marketing content writer positions will decline 50% by 2030, half of all content writing jobs gone in 4 years. And 70% of marketers have already integrated AI into their operations, and 60% fear AI could replace their roles. The people using the tool know it is coming for them. And Shutterstock and Getty, the platforms that freelance photographers depended on for income, have added AI-generated image libraries while simultaneously cutting payouts to human photographers and illustrators. The platforms that used to sell your photographs are now selling photographs generated by the machine that was trained on your photographs. And a Medium essay published 3 weeks ago framed it in the most precise terms anyone has used. The works of living novelists, working journalists, active screenwriters, practicing poets, and professional copywriters were ingested without permission, without payment, without credit, into systems now being sold as commercial products, generating billions of dollars in annual revenue. Your creativity was stolen to train the machine that replaced you, and the entry-level creative jobs that are disappearing fastest are not just income, they are apprenticeships. They are how the next generation of great novelists learns to write on deadline. How the next generation of great journalists learns to report under pressure. How the next generation of great screenwriters learns to kill their darlings. The ladder that every creative professional climbed to get from amateur to master is being pulled up, and the generation below is standing at the bottom looking up at a space where the rungs used to be. And the woman at OpenAI says maybe those rungs should not have been there in the first place. The safe professional jobs that required a 6-figure education are being automated faster than factory jobs were, and nobody told the people who just took on $150,000 in student debt to get them. Every previous wave of automation in the history of industrial civilization followed the same pattern. It started at the bottom, manual labor first, assembly lines, textile mills, farming, mining. The blue-collar jobs that required physical effort and repetitive motion were the ones that machines ate first. And the response from the educated class was always the same: go to school, get a degree, move up the economic ladder into knowledge work, where your mind, not your hands, is the tool. That advice was correct for 200 years, and in 2026, it is catastrophically wrong. Because AI does not automate from the bottom up. It automates from the middle out. It automates cognitive work. It automates the exact jobs that people spent 6 figures in tuition to qualify for. The AI Magix 2026 Job Disruption Report, published in March, documented the carnage across professional services. In legal, the declining roles include contract review specialists, legal research assistants, paralegal document reviewers, and entry-level associates performing due diligence. A contract that used to take a junior associate 40 hours to review can now be processed by an AI tool in minutes. Law firms are not eliminating partners. They are eliminating the people who do the work that partners bill at $600 an hour while paying the associate $80 an hour. The margin was in the labor arbitrage, and AI just collapsed the arbitrage. In accounting, the declining roles include bookkeepers, tax preparers, audit associates, and accounts payable and receivable clerks. Intuit, the company that makes TurboTax, fired 3,000 people on the same day Meta fired 8,000 and explicitly cited AI capabilities in both consumer and professional tax preparation. The company that built the software to help you do your taxes is now using AI to do the taxes itself. And the accountant who used to do what TurboTax could not handle is discovering that the gap between what AI can and cannot handle is shrinking faster than their career can adapt. In consulting, McKinsey and Accenture and Deloitte and PwC are all deploying AI tools that perform research, generate slide decks, analyze datasets, and produce client recommendations at a fraction of the cost of a first-year analyst. Accenture announced AI-related layoffs affecting more than 10,000 employees. 10,000 consultants told that the machine can produce the deliverable that used to require a team of 4 billing $300 an hour for 6 weeks. And in human resources, the declining roles include resume screeners, benefits administrators, onboarding coordinators, and first-level employee support. The irony is so thick it chokes. The HR department that processes your termination paperwork is being automated by the same technology that caused your termination, and the salary data tells the story of what is left. The AI Magics report documented extreme bifurcation. Commodity professional rates are collapsing. A junior copywriter who made $55,000 is now competing with AI that costs $20 per month. A junior legal associate who made $85,000 is watching AI review contracts in seconds. An entry-level financial analyst who made $75,000 is seeing AI build the models they spent a year learning in Excel. But AI-augmented senior roles are seeing salaries increase 20 to 40% because the senior person who can direct the AI, quality check the output, and handle the edge cases is now doing the work of 5 juniors. The senior gets richer. The juniors get fired. And the $150,000 in student debt that the junior took on to get the degree that qualified them for the job that no longer exists does not get automated away. That debt follows them into a job market that has decided their skill is worth $20 a month in software costs. And the cruelest part is that this was the plan B. After manufacturing collapsed, they said go to college, get a professional job, join the knowledge economy. After the knowledge economy collapses, where is plan C? Nobody has one, because there has never been a technological revolution that automated cognitive work at this speed. And the people who are underwater on student debt for degrees in law, accounting, finance, consulting, marketing, and human resources are discovering that plan B was not a destination. It was a bridge, and the bridge just collapsed while they were standing on it. The companies replacing their workers with AI are replacing their own customers, because a person without a job does not buy products, and the economy that emerges from this has a name. It is called a death spiral. Henry Ford understood something in 1914 that the CEOs of 2026 have apparently forgotten. When Ford raised his factory workers' wages to $5 a day, which was double the industry standard, he was asked why. And his answer was simple. He said, I want my workers to be able to afford the cars they build. That was not charity, that was math. Workers are also customers. The money you pay them comes back to you when they buy your product. And the entire consumer economy of the 20th and 21st century was built on that loop. Companies hire workers, workers earn wages, workers spend wages on products, companies earn revenue, companies hire more workers. The loop sustains itself, and AI is breaking the loop. When Amazon fires 30,000 workers and replaces them with AI, those 30,000 people do not stop existing. They stop spending. They cancel their Amazon Prime subscriptions. They stop ordering packages. They stop buying products. They cut every non-essential expense because their income just went to zero. And Amazon's revenue model, which depends on 200 million Prime subscribers spending an average of $1,400 per year, loses customers at the same rate it reduces headcount. Multiply that across every company executing the same strategy simultaneously. Fortune documented that corporate America eliminated 1.17 million jobs in 2025 under the AI banner, and 66% of CEOs have frozen hiring through the rest of 2026. The consumer spending that those jobs generated does not get replaced by AI. AI does not buy groceries. AI does not pay rent. AI does not subscribe to streaming services. AI does not take its family to a restaurant. AI does not purchase a car or a house or a vacation or health insurance or any of the millions of transactions that constitute the $17 trillion American consumer economy. And consumer spending accounts for roughly 70% of U.S. GDP. That is not a footnote. That is the engine. When you remove the consumer from the consumer economy, the economy does not contract, it collapses, and the collapse feeds on itself. When companies fire workers, consumer spending drops. When consumer spending drops, company revenue drops. When revenue drops, companies fire more workers to maintain margins. When they fire more workers, consumer spending drops further. When it drops further, more companies fire more workers, and the spiral accelerates. And the AI that replaced the workers cannot compensate because AI does not consume, it produces. It is warehouses full of products that nobody can afford to buy. It is software that nobody can afford to subscribe to. It is content that nobody has time to consume because they are too busy looking for a job that no longer exists. And the Brookings Institution already documented that 45% of American households cannot make ends meet. That was before the AI layoffs accelerated. Before the 66% hiring freeze. Before the 142,000 tech workers lost their paychecks. Before the 50,000 AI-attributed cuts. Before the 1.17 million eliminated in 2025. Add those numbers to the 45% who were already drowning, and the consumer base that the American economy depends on for 70% of its GDP is eroding in real time. And every CEO who brags about reducing headcount by 40% through AI is bragging about destroying the customer base that their revenue depends on. They are cutting the branch they are sitting on, and the tree they are sitting in is the $17 trillion consumer economy. And the ground beneath the tree is $39 trillion in national debt. $18.8 trillion in household debt, $5.1 trillion in consumer credit card debt, and a country where 99.2% of deep subprime borrowers have already maxed out their cards. Henry Ford understood that workers are customers. The CEOs of 2026 have forgotten it, and by the time they remember, the customers will be gone. Not to a competitor, just gone. Broke, unemployed, surviving on whatever safety net remains in a country that is simultaneously gutting the safety net. And the death spiral will not be reversed by another round of layoffs. It will be reversed by someone in a boardroom remembering what Henry Ford knew 12 years ago, that the economy is a loop, and when you break the loop, everything stops. The biggest lie in corporate America right now is that AI can actually do the jobs these companies are firing people for, and a Wharton professor just exposed it on the record. Wharton management professor Peter Capelli said something in May 2026 that should be read aloud at the next earnings call of every company that blamed a layoff on artificial intelligence. He said companies are announcing layoffs by saying we expect that AI will cover this work, had not done it. They are just hoping, read that again, had not done it. They are just hoping. The most prestigious business school in the world produced a professor who went on the record and said that corporations are firing human beings based on the hope that a technology they have not yet proven can replace them will eventually work, and Oxford Economics confirmed it. In January 2026, they concluded that firms do not appear to be replacing workers with AI on a significant scale, suggesting that some companies may be using artificial intelligence as cover for routine cost-cutting. Cover. The word Oxford used was cover, meaning that AI is not the reason for the layoffs. AI is the excuse for the layoffs. The real reason is the one that has driven every round of corporate layoffs for 40 years. Margins. Shareholder returns. Executive bonuses tied to headcount reduction. Stock buybacks funded by payroll savings. The same playbook that gutted manufacturing, that hollowed out the middle class, that turned a single-income household into a dual-income household, and then into a dual-income plus side-hustle household, is now being run with a new label on it. And the label is AI, and the data supports this interpretation everywhere you look. Klarna replaced 700 workers with AI, bragged about it, and then rehired humans because the AI produced lower-quality work. Duolingo's CEO announced an AI-first policy, got backlash, and then went on a clarification tour telling every journalist that full-time employees were not actually getting fired. He quietly dropped the part about AI usage being in performance reviews, saying, "I am not going to force you in an interview a year later." Shopify does not say how much faster features are shipping since they made AI prototyping mandatory. The companies running the AI-first experiments are not publishing their results. And Challenger, Gray, and Christmas, the firm that has tracked layoffs for decades, put a finer point on it. Out of 286,679 planned layoffs so far this year, only 20,000 were linked to automation. And just 75 were explicitly tied to AI implementation. 75. In an economy of 160 million workers, Andrew Challenger, the firm's senior vice president, said far less is happening than people imagine. He said he is not talking to too many HR leaders who say AI is replacing jobs. And yet 45 CEOs have gone on stage and told investors that AI is the reason they are shrinking headcount, and the stock market rewards them for it. Every time a CEO says the word AI in an earnings call, the stock ticks up. Every time they announce a restructuring tied to AI efficiency, the analysts upgrade the rating. The market is incentivizing the lie, because Wall Street does not care whether the AI actually works. Wall Street cares whether the headcount is lower and the margins are wider and the executive team can tell a story that justifies the multiple. And the story right now is AI. And the people who lose their jobs to the story do not get rehired when the story turns out to be exaggerated. Because once a position is eliminated, it is eliminated. The budget line is gone, the headcount number is reduced, and even if the work needs to be done by a human, the company will not post the job at the old salary. They will hire a contractor at half the rate. Or they will redistribute the work to the remaining employees and call it operational efficiency. And the human who was fired so that a CEO could say AI on an earnings call and watch the stock price jump is left with a severance check and a LinkedIn profile in a job market where 66% of companies have frozen hiring. The lie is not that AI is powerful. AI is powerful. The lie is that AI is the reason you lost your job. The reason you lost your job is the same reason your parents lost their manufacturing jobs and your grandparents lost their farming jobs. The reason is that capital found a cheaper input, and the people in charge of allocating capital do not care what the cheaper input is, whether it is a machine or a robot or an algorithm or a 22-year-old in another country or a chatbot that hallucinates 30% of the time. They care that it is cheaper, and AI is the word they are using this time to make the cheap feel like the future. AI cannot replace the thing that makes you irreplaceable, and the people who understand that are about to become the most valuable workers in the country. I have spent this entire video showing you the scale of what is happening. 142,000 tech workers fired, $700 billion in AI infrastructure. Software developer employment for young workers down 20%. Klarna's replacement failing. Wall Street planning to cut 200,000 jobs. 66% of CEOs freezing hiring. Creative jobs collapsing at 28 to 33% per year. Professional jobs being automated from the middle out. The consumer economy entering a death spiral. And the biggest lie in corporate America covering it all in a fog of inevitability that makes resistance feel pointless. And I know what this feels like. It feels like the ground is gone. Like every safe path just cratered. Like you woke up in a world where the rules you were taught no longer apply, and nobody bothered to write new ones. And I refuse to leave you there. Because here is what AI cannot do. AI cannot plumb your house. AI cannot wire your electrical panel. AI cannot weld a pipe. AI cannot frame a wall. AI cannot replace a roof in the rain. AI cannot fix the furnace at 2 a.m. when your family is shivering. AI cannot perform surgery. Wien walk on a 100. AI cannot weld by tonera like core. AI cannot fry whelps when he bow a mekau how. We knew wick february the calf the zone the house. One the face sion canal.
Kapathikit from start widening to fume fern senfo.
AI cannot coach your son's little league team. AI cannot cut your hair while asking about your week. AI cannot grow tomatoes in the backyard and hand them to your neighbor over the fence. AI cannot raise your children. AI cannot be your friend. And every single one of those things has economic value that no algorithm can capture because the value is in the human presence itself. And the 2026 Job Disruption Report confirms something that should be tattooed on the forehead of every career counselor in America. The jobs that are growing are the ones that require physical presence, human judgment in unpredictable environments, emotional intelligence, and the ability to operate in situations where no 2 days are the same. Plumbing, electrical work, HVAC repair, nursing, teaching, social work, skilled trades of every kind. The jobs that your guidance counselor told you were beneath you because you were smart enough to go to college are about to become the most stable, most in-demand, and highest-paying careers in the post-AI economy. And the McKinsey data showed that 78% of organizations are using AI in at least one business function. 78%. But the functions they are automating are the ones that involve structured, repetitive, pattern-based cognitive tasks. The ones they cannot automate are the ones that involve ambiguity, physicality, creativity at the strategic level, emotional navigation, and real-time human-to-human interaction. And here is what you need to do. If you are in a job that involves sitting at a computer producing structured output that follows templates and patterns, you are in the kill zone. Start learning a skill that requires your body in a room. Start today. Not because your job is gone tomorrow, but because the hiring freeze means your next job might not exist when this one ends. If you are a parent, stop telling your child that college is the only path. The trades are hiring. They are paying $60,000 to $120,000 a year. They cannot be offshored. They cannot be automated. And they are begging for workers because an entire generation was told those jobs were beneath them, while the jobs they were told to pursue are being absorbed by a $1.20 a month subscription. If you are young and choosing a career, choose the one where a human being in a physical space doing something with their hands or their heart is the product. Not the overhead. The product. Electrician, welder, carpenter, plumber, nurse, paramedic, physical therapist, chef, teacher, mechanic. These are not backup plans. These are the front line of the post-AI economy, and they are hiring now. And if you are already displaced, already laid off, already sitting in the quiet of a house that suddenly feels too big because the job that paid for it is gone, hear me, you are not obsolete. The narrative that you are replaceable is a story told by people who benefit from you believing it. Your skills are real. Your experience is real. Your ability to learn, to adapt, to show up, to care, to build something with your hands or your mind or your heart that a machine cannot replicate is real. The machine is powerful, but the machine does not know what it is like to be you. And being you is the one thing that cannot be automated, outsourced, or eliminated by a CEO who read a McKinsey report. Start where you are, learn something new, build something real, and refuse to let a spreadsheet tell you what you are worth.